What is up, everyone? I'm Kevin.
And I'm Kyle. And we are
the Brothers Williams. You? Me?
Who talks first? Do you talk first? I talk first.
How's this work?
How's this work?
Alright, so today we're going to be discussing the latest Joker trailer, which I guess it's the final one?
Yeah, I believe it's the final Joker trailer that is coming out before the film is released in October.
And I actually thought it was going to be released much sooner, like last week, just because all of these film critics had come out with their critiques on the movie. I guess they'd shown it or something at a film festival.
Yeah.
And which apparently got like a 8-minute standing ovation, if I'm correct. I haven't exactly checked my sources, but that's what I've heard. So, yeah, but before we start that, we wanted to discuss a little bit about the lore of Joker himself. So, our knowledge comes more from the 90s and onward. So, like the animated series Joker, voiced by Mark Hamill, which was done brilliantly. I cannot read a comic with Joker in it and not hear his voice. Also, the Batman series, which came out later in the 2000s. The Batman, the Dark Knight Rises movie. We never bothered to go see Suicide Squad because we thought that was a joke. Haha, funny joke. But as far as and as well as Joker from the Arkham Asylum video game series, also voiced by Mark Hamill, which he's not going to get away from that role ever in his life, I think.
Well, I mean, it's just so iconic to any of the animated versions that almost every other person who voices the Joker in an animated medium almost instinctively does a similar voice to the one that Mark Hamill does.
Yeah.
Nice of you to say, but you of all people should know there's plenty wrong with me.
Some to better effect than others, but it's not accurate.
Now, as far as the people we've seen who've portrayed the Joker, it's been Mark Hamill, Jack Nicholson, the Heath Ledger. Forget Suicide Squad guy, because I don't care.
Yeah, 30 Seconds to Mars singer.
Yeah. And I just learned the proper way to pronounce his name.
Joaquin Phoenix.
I was pronouncing it Jacquin. So, as far as the portrayal of Joker, Mark Hamill has always done it more of a sort of the kind of person who finds pain to be a funny thing and he gets a real kick out of it. And the fact that he goes around tormenting people like on a daily basis, no matter who they are, like if they're his enemy, his friends, the people he works with, he just enjoys tormenting people and he loves it. It's something that he's always done and he hates it when it gets turned back on him. But that's sort of why that character was so brilliant, was because he had a double standard for himself, but when it came to other people's own well-being, he just didn't care. He just did what he felt like doing. The Joker from the other Batman animated series was more of a I'm just looking to have fun sort of Joker.
And crazy, like kind of, it's so much fun being crazy and doing all these evil things, kind of a thing that he's got going on. So that's kind of my understanding of the character from the Batman animated series.
Now, I'm not too familiar with Jack Nicholson's portrayal. Did you watch that movie?
I've seen it. It's been a long time. From my understanding, it's more of like kind of the mob boss kind of Joker, you know? which I don't know if that's like a product of the time, because like there's all these mob movies, and it was much more in the public consciousness, I think, at the time. But I mean, that's my understanding of Jack Nicholson's The Joker. But
Okay. Let's see, who else was there? Heath Ledger. He was definitely the more of the criminally insane anarchy sort of Joker.
Yeah. He definitely represented the force of just anarchy, as opposed to Batman, who represented kind of trying to keep things in order, and he was a force of disorder. And he tried to prove that in the movie. So, fantastic portrayal, as everyone has said forever. But yeah, also that like element of philosophical conflict really comes in, which I think is why the Joker is often seen as Batman's arch nemesis. He's chaos. Batman represents attempts at order. So, and then the Arkham Asylum games.
Oh man, where do I begin? Honestly, it was just nice and kind of fun to have Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy reprise their roles as Joker and Batman. And before I forget it, Kevin Conroy is going to play old Batman in the DC Infinite Earth Crisis live action TV show.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, so that's going to be
cool.
really cool. Yeah, but anyway, the thing with Joker in the video games, his goal was always not necessarily to kill Batman. I mean, obviously, in the very end, he wanted to, but to sort of prove that the Batman could be beaten and taken down in whatever way was possible, through either a series of events in the asylum or tricking him into sort of saving him by giving him his own by giving Batman his own infected blood, and then letting Batman die from that while he saves himself. And then in the Arkham Knight game, he was more of a portrayal of if Joker's spirit sort of lived on in Bruce Wayne's head and knew everything that was going on, and sort of his commentary on everything that was going on in Gotham, which was a fantastic take on this sort of story, just because it was sort of a tongue-in-cheek kind of let's make fun of ourselves kind of bit, which Mark Hamill does very well. But as far as like overall Joker, I sort of feel like his thing has just been to serve himself, to sort of prove something to everyone, whether that's how great he is or how corrupt society is or whatever. He's always sort of had this thing to prove to everybody.
It's not about money. It's about sending a message.
And I think that can be said of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that there's been a lot of I don't know if there's been a lot of comparisons, but there have been comparisons between obviously ever since The Dark Knight, anyone who takes on the mantle of the Joker is compared to Heath Ledger's version.
Or a previous Joker.
Yeah, or a previous Joker, that's true. And I think that rather than I think it's valuable to compare the characters, because I feel like Joaquin Phoenix's version and this movie's version is very different from the ones that have gone before in, his origin, where he's coming from, and what his goals might be. But at the same time, I think that it's a very apt comparison to compare The Dark Knight versus Joker. Because both, it seems, have really strived for realism. In interviews with Christopher Nolan, he said that like mob films really influenced the making of The Dark Knight, and they used practical effects to great result. And when they just really focused on like that realism aspect, and I really feel like from the trailer that we've seen, that is also a big focus on in this movie. And talking about mental illness, talking about how people react to mental illness, that could be an entire commentary on the mental health crisis in the United States, and how people interact with those with mental illnesses. Hence, they get stigmatized and told that like they're weirdos, and that pushes this guy to become the Joker because he's ostracized. Mm-hmm. So I think that's going to be a really interesting theme going underneath. But I really feel like this movie is also taking cues from mob movies and from these like gritty, anti-hero kind of movies like Scarface, where the main character, he kind of, goes head first down into the underworld, into the darkness, and really allows that to consume him. It's not necessarily that the Joker is a hero of the film. He's the protagonist, meaning that's who we see the world through his lens. But it really is going to be a tragedy of how he becomes the Joker, right? He bumps up against the reality of who he is, potentially, if you're going with like Greek tragedy kinds of definitions of what tragedy is. But yeah, I think that, rather than necessarily having it be a superhero film, it's a drama that has, superheroes and comic books as the backdrop for character development and character change and character arcs. So I think that with all of that in mind, I really think that it's going to be a really good film in general for like film buffs like me. And I think that it will probably be one of the better DC movies to come out in a long time, because it takes what we know that the Dark Knight did and did well, and moving along with that same kind of philosophy.
Yeah.
How to make it, how to tell the story about the character, and what's it all about, basically. So.
Yeah, I think we'd mentioned it before in our Shazam video, which hasn't been heavily viewed. Probably just bad timing or something like that.
The YouTube algorithm.
Yeah, it died for that. We were pretty late on jumping on that one, but we discussed briefly in that video how the DC theatrical universe is building up their villains. I personally feel for the Legion of Doom. Now, whether or not that's actually true and that's what they're planning on doing, who knows?
Yeah. We don't even know if this is necessarily tied to the DCEU war with Joker. It might be kind of a separate story in general, and Joaquin Phoenix might not even reprise it. But
it'd be awesome if he did, I think.
Yeah.
But I think with DC, they've definitely been getting better when it comes to building up their villains. And I think that's a big part of storytelling in general. Because, I mean, you can have this great story about some character doing a great thing, but unless there's an antagonizing force of equal or greater power against them, it's like, well, who really cares?
Right.
Where's the struggle? Why should I care to see this person succeed if there's no struggle for them to fail in the first place?
And in a sense, you define your hero by the villains and the forces they fight against, And I mean, I really feel like why Batman is such a well-established character is because you have such well-established villains for him to be opposing. And it's that conflict that really drives good storytelling in general, is you have just a really solid villain or opposing force that the hero has to rise to defeat. And that's, I think, where we get so much enjoyment. And I mean, like, look at The Dark Knight. That's really, I mean, it's almost like the struggle of Batman to overcome the Joker, you know, because he keeps getting beat throughout the movie.
Yeah.
I mean,
Keeps coming this close to getting him, and then Joker gets away.
Yeah. And so that is why so many people love The Dark Knight, is because Batman is rising to defeat the Joker, who, you know, such a well-defined villain that, you know, it really shows that growth and that overcoming. So,
yeah, I think that's why Marvel's films not necessarily have done better, but like their long end goal did so well. Whereas, like, compared to, say, the Justice League, it didn't do that well because their villain was some random dude who I had never even heard of.
Looking for mystical squares, like mystical cues.
Steppenwolf and who?
And what I still don't really know exactly what
they're trying to tie
do.
in Darkseid somehow, but they've canceled him twice. And it's like, why should I care?
Yeah.
Because these bad guys they're fighting don't mean anything.
Yeah.
But like after the Justice League movie with Shazam and Aquaman, and heck, even Wonder Woman did a really good job. Their bad guys were top tier. Like they made you not only sort of kind of care where the bad guy was coming from, but why they connect to the hero in the way that they do.
Yeah. Yeah, and like just take a look at Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3. Like those villains were very weak.
Yeah.
And like it just didn't land when it comes to, like, you know, these villains weren't like well established and weren't very well. I mean, it was like, oh, we're evil, doing evil things.
We don't like you because
whatever. I mean, yeah, it's almost like villain of the week style,
yeah.
Right? But what Marvel really did well was set up Endgame and Infinity War, right? Where, and especially in Infinity War, where like Thanos was basically the protagonist. He had the goal. He was overcoming obstacles to make his goal. And he did it, right? And so, like, it's this really interesting character because you do see a lot of the film through his eyes. You don't necessarily agree with him, but you see where he's coming from, and you see what it is that the heroes are trying to rise to defeat. And once that is so well established, then you go to Endgame, and you see these heroes struggling to overcome. And when they finally do, it's this huge, massive payoff, which is why it was so well received, you know? And, you know, kudos to the Marvel Universe for doing that and having that vision, because there are a lot of ways they could have screwed that up. You know?
It could have been really bad.
And
they nailed it.
Yeah, and I think taking that risk to focus so much on Thanos in Infinity War really paid off.
Yeah.
So, like you said, I think that the DCEU, really focusing on making their villains feel real, feel threatening, and really something to juxtapose against the heroes. Because the badder your villains are, the better your heroes will be in comparison if they can beat them.
The better they'll have to be.
They'll have to be, they'll have to be better. And when they finally overcome, you go, yeah, that is a hero that I can get behind. because they took down that shiz. You know? So
yeah, we're definitely excited to see Joker when it comes out. I would recommend it probably to anyone.
yeah, definitely. If you're a fan of DC, I think it's a must watch.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll see how it goes. Critics are liking it. That's not necessarily an indicator of how good the film is overall.
Yeah.
Because critics have their own lens that they look through things. So,
Yeah. But from what we've seen so far, I'm sold on it.
Yeah, me too. So throw down in the comments what you think of the new trailer, what your expectations are for Joker, the film, because there's not the Joker, which is weird to me because the Joker is always the Joker.
Yeah, it
Not
sort of needs
Joker.
that article.
He needs that article because he's a force. Something you smack around with, like Iron Bull said.
Yeah.
The Iron Bull said. But anyway, that, as they say,
Is that.